when you have people that hate you, you have to have a buffer zone between you and them.
Or you have to obliterate the people that hate you.
Or obliterate them, but at least a buffer zone.
Egypt actually poses the greatest threat to Israel out of all of the Arab countries around. One, they share a border, and they have a massive military. I would say it's almost to the scale of what Turkey presents right now. Turkey is really out of hand.
Well,
we just saw a deal.
And if you haven't figured it out yet, by now, Qatar is in control of Hamas and Gaza. Qatar is a big problem, and for some reason now they're being allianced with the United States. Hey guys, welcome back to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of anti-Israel propaganda and Jew hatred, you should always be connected to the land and people of Israel. Glad to have you with us today. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you're followed on your favorite podcast platform. Leave us a review. If you're on YouTube, leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you. I'm here with Joshua Waller, Ben Hilton, also from the Israel Guys, but he's usually halfway around the world. So happy to have y'all here today. And we do not, unfortunately, have Jeremy Gimpel and Ari Abramowitz. In fact, it might be a couple of weeks because right now is the season of holidays in Israel, but don't worry, they will be back and you can let them know that you miss them. So before we dive into the report, the projection, the rumors, the official rumors that Trump has a new peace plan, which according to Joshua Waller's predictions might be a regurgitated peace plan from about 5 years ago. I want to tell you guys that this show and the Israel Guys in general recently got rid of all of our paid advertising because we believe in bringing you guys the best possible content for free, but we also, it does cost money to run these programs. So if you would consider supporting our work at theisraelguys.com, and if you can, become a monthly supporter, because like that's how we keep the day-to-day operations running. We have a team that runs everything in front of the cameras, behind the cameras. We definitely appreciate your support, bringing you the truth and reality from Israel every single week. And by the way, our monthly supporters get to be part of a really cool special program. We have a private Telegram channel that you get to be on with behind the scenes videos, questions and answers, things like that. We have a monthly Zoom call. You get to be on with Joshua Waller, monthly newsletter, photos. It's really cool. So consider supporting us monthly if you can at theisraelguys.com. Put a link in the description below. And with that, let's dive right in. Josh, do you want to, what's this 21-point peace plan? And is this confirmed or is this still speculation?
Well, basically what we have right now is just a bunch of speculations because all we know that Trump gathered with a couple of Arab countries on the sidelines of the UN summit that took place just this week and pulled them together and said, hey, what do you think about this? I'm almost thinking that it was because, one of the biggest things against his peace to prosperity plan that he presented in 2020.
Deal of the century, if you remember.
Deal of the century.
Early 2020.
Is that it was so, what the naysayers said, we said it was not good at all. We were pretty harsh against it here at the Israel Guys.
Lost some support over it.
Yeah. Well, hey, and I still hold the ground that this was it was not good for Israel whatsoever.
It was the path for a Palestinian state.
But what I'm foreseeing is that he's not losing all of that. He did tons of research to pull that together. And one of the biggest critiques he had against it was that the Arabs were not consulted enough in the process. So already, if you remember back to that time, maybe he's already kicking it off. Israel and America have a solid relationship. They've got a deep, very connected. Could very well be that Trump's going to do the other way this time, which is a little scary for us here in Israel. And I foresee that this could be the direction he's going. I don't know what you think, Ben, but I think
other way in what way?
Side up with the Arabs more so, since siding with Israel did not work and was not able to achieve it.
So something that we do know is confirmed is that Trump did meet with like a delegation of Arab and Muslim leaders on the sidelines of the UN. But it's strange that Israel is not a part of this. If they really are putting together a 21-point peace plan for Israel, Gaza, and the Middle East, Israel so far is in the dark.
Do we know that Israel is not in on these discussions?
They weren't part of this meeting. That's what we do know, right? And we do know Bibi is flying to the U.S. today, I think, speaking at the UN today or tomorrow. And he's meeting with Trump on Monday, so possibly he'll be brought in.
The guys that were there that we should make this point. You got Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, Indonesia, and Pakistan. I don't know exactly. I'm not exactly sure why Indonesia and Pakistan are there. Do you know why?
Or Turkey. Why is Turkey there?
Turkey kind of makes sense to me because they're very involved.
Indonesia seems like they're taking a bigger role here than they have in the past. I could be wrong, but the Prime Minister of Indonesia made a speech at the UN where he said that they were willing, if the UN gave them the permission. He said, we have it ready to go. If the UN gives us permission, we will send 20,000 troops to Gaza to bring peace to Gaza again. So I don't know if that means I don't know if that means help Israel contain Hamas, or
I've got a feeling that this nation lineup is not to help Israel at all.
Because Indonesia is the biggest Muslim country in the world.
Is that right? I had no idea about that.
Yeah,
Muslim.
Biggest Muslim country in the world.
But I actually just learned this. They are not a Muslim country. They're the biggest Muslim majority country.
Right. But Muslim population.
It's just the population. It's not a Muslim run country.
Okay, so why would the biggest Muslim run country in the world have anything in goodwill to give to Israel?
I don't know. His speech was pretty good at the UN, at least the one clip that I saw. Like
he did say in his clip that he defended Israel's right to be a sovereign nation, and that we had to keep that as
their safety had to be, and security had to be number one
their security
priority.
had to be upheld. But then he also said we stand firmly with the idea of a Palestinian state. And so far, Indonesia actually hasn't recognized Israel's right to exist officially. And he said that if Israel created a Palestinian state, Indonesia would recognize Israel's right to exist.
So this is the biggest,
generous on their part, to recognize Israel's right to exist after a Palestinian statement.
Well, I just want to say that the 21 points to peace in the Middle East mean, let's just be very blunt here, means the same thing that the 2020 Peace to Prosperity deal of the century meant, and that meant the creation of the 23rd Arab State.
Can we start with why that deal was bad? And we're coming up on almost be 6 years this January when that deal came out. Well, by the way, yeah. The deal of the century plan came out, and 2 days later, COVID was declared a global pandemic. So,
Ben, you just said something the other day. Could you repeat that again? There. Well, hold on. But Ben said something the other day that was really solid, I thought. Can you go through that timeline that you told me the other day about Trump? Is that appropriate to share online?
Well, it's crazy. It's crazy that we saw that relation where Trump became president of the United States out of nowhere in 2016. He was extremely pro-Israel, and then when they released that deal of the century, like Luke said, COVID was announced, and then Trump lost the 2020 presidency. Fair or not fair, whatever you think. He lost that presidency, and he was not the president in 2020, and Biden took over. And then Trump was sent packing, and a lot of people thought he would never return to power again. Mm-hmm. And then you had the attempted assassination of Trump, where he shot in the ear. And then he gives glory to God for that, and then he's the president again, and he's pro-Israel. And out of all of the opposition he gets from the MAGA movement, he stands with Israel and he takes out Iran's nuclear weapons. Mm-hmm. And then that brings us back to today, where we could be seeing that deal of the century. I mean, God forbid, hopefully not, but we could be seeing it come back into play again. And then that begs the question, what happens to Trump after that? Yeah.
Well, my immediate response to you when we had that discussion the other day is that I don't think Trump sees that timeline. I don't think he sees that Israel
are people warning him of it. I know that. I mean, we know people that are in his, the White House faith advisory circles.
Yeah.
There are people trying to get through.
They don't have $1 trillion.
Yeah, that's true.
Pretty sure that's the reason why they're not going to be heard.
So we should talk about why the deal of the century was problematic.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just got a map here that I pulled up.
And also people should know that the deal of the century was shuttered in favor of the Abraham Accords. And so as good as the Abraham Accords were, basically they conceded any hope of Israel applying any type of sovereignty, Palestinian state, in favor of the four nations joining the Abraham Accords. But deal of the century called for the spot where we're sitting right now to be the border of a Palestinian state. Let's just start with that. Right. Every single Jewish community in Judea and Samaria, or nearly all of them, would have been islands. Enclaves is the word that was used, surrounded by a Palestinian state. And when you would have left the Jewish community that we're sitting next to right now, you would have gotten on a road that would have been like a tunnel going through a terrorist Palestinian state to get out to Tel Aviv or something like that. And I mean, if you haven't paid attention to history for the last 75 years, and to think that you could drive a car in and out of a Palestinian state on a daily basis to get to an enclave Jewish island in the middle of it. So that was the deal of the century, and it was carving out basically all these islands, Jewish communities, that would be inside the Arab terrorist state, and it was a pathway for Palestinian statehood.
Well, and
of course, everybody always says, well, yeah, but we've had all these plans in the past, and the Arabs never live up to their expectations, and then there would never actually be a Palestinian state. You should never, ever, ever bank on the fact that the Arabs won't fulfill their side of the obligation. Like, why would we ever even offer the pathway for a Palestinian state?
Well, one thing I always think of is like peace through strength. That's not a peace through strength when you're like, let's just throw it out there, and if they don't take it, then we're going to win. That's not peace through strength. And also it's recognizing that
it's conceding to the Palestinians that October 7th was successful.
And honestly, that's Bibi's biggest lines right now on the world stage. That's literally his only.
You murder Jews and you get a state in return.
Which honestly, I agree with him. I don't think that's Israel's strongest argument.
Yeah.
So can we go through the countries that were supposedly part of this meeting on the sidelines of the UN? You've got Qatar.
Yeah.
And if you haven't figured it out yet by now, Qatar is in control of Hamas in Gaza. Qatar decides if Hamas accepts a ceasefire. Qatar is the one that got the hostages released in the first place. Qatar has hosted the Hamas leaders until Israel took them out in a brilliant strike. What was that, a month ago now?
Yeah.
Qatar was the home base for the multi-billionaires that were Hamas's leaders. Qatar is a big problem, and for some reason now they're being allianced with the United States.
We got to talk about Trump's airplane.
Well, yeah, that too. But no one talks about the fact that on day one of the war, of the October 7th war, Biden could have called up Qatar and said, the hostages get released right now, or our military base gets pulled.
Biden?
Wasn't that Biden?
I'm not sure he could have made a phone call. I don't know.
Yeah,
all right.
Well, I mean, Biden.
You're saying the president of the United States should have had the ability to make a phone call.
Mr. Autopen, but somebody in his administration should have made a phone call to Secretary of Defense to Qatar and said, we pull our American military base or the hostages get released. And they would have been released. I mean, guaranteed. Qatar has so much influence over Hamas, and that military base is very important to Qatar's security and to their economy. Real quick, guys, we have an incredible film dropping October 5th about the real location of the Temple Mount, filmed from Jerusalem. Go to theisraelguys.com/temple to get notified when that releases. Watch the trailer right here.
The Temple Mount has loads of Jewish history, thousands of years. The Antonio Fortress, here it goes, is now placed by most archaeologists on top of the Temple Mount in the northwest corner.
The Antonio Fortress didn't build for example, for a legion.
The temple does not use the water from the Gihon Spring.
We're in the old city of Jerusalem here. We're looking for a rooftop.
There is a Hebrew inscription that says, to the place of trumpeting.
We're talking scientific facts, probably over 750,000 pieces, that the assumption is that they come from the Temple Mount. You have to deny all the information about the temple. You have to deny everything we have in the Bible.
No one should ever try to place it anywhere else.
Again, theisraelguys.com/temple to get notified when that releases. We will be doing an exciting premiere. A lot of us will be in the chat live as we watch through it. Please don't miss it. Share this with all of your friends. We are super, super excited to see this come to the public. So israelguys.com/temple to get notified when the release happens.
One of the big shifts in Qatar was Israel's strike there just recently. So they're striking the Hamas guys that Qatar has become a home for. They've not only was a home for, well, still is. They still got some guys there.
And Israel supposedly might have missed like one of them or something.
Right. And so the Qatar relationship to America is very complex. Like Ben said, that could have been the win of the war could have been over on day one if America had pressured Qatar. So let's just go with it. There's something deeper, more, if you will, scandalous about the American-Qatar relationship. And when Israel struck Qatar to take out these brutes from Qatar, it was like Trump kind of, okay, it's okay that you took out these guys because they're really bad. But in the camera light, he was very anti. He was very like, Israel, bad move. You don't do
Yeah,
that.
because he's getting a $400 million plane from Qatar,
Well,
and
more
he's
than
trying
that.
to make them into a U.S. ally.
It's way more than a $400 million plane. Qatar is bailing out the U.S. economy actively right now through all the business deals.
Let's talk
It's
about
like,
Saudi.
it's like getting
sorry.
close to $1 trillion in money coming from Qatar.
Right. That was what they put.
Well, it's part of the investment that Trump's trying to get in the United States. Saudi Arabia, kind of a weird one because Saudi Arabia already has semi-normal relations. I know everybody talks about normalizing relations, but there's a lot of, I have friends who have business relations in Israel with Saudi Arabia, but they're kind of one that's like sat on the fence for a long time because they also refuse to officially normalize relations with Israel without a Palestinian state because that's their official lines and they're not allowed to deviate from it, even though a lot of the people in Saudi Arabia could not care less about the Palestinian problem. They're kind of a weird one. Obviously, everybody wants them to officially have some kind of peace agreement or normal relations with Israel. Egypt. Now, the weird thing about Egypt is Israel's had a peace agreement with them for a long time, right? But Egypt is amassing troops on the Gaza border, on the Israel-Gaza border there.
In my mind, Egypt actually poses the greatest threat to Israel out of all of the Arab countries around. One, they share a border, and they have a massive military. I would say it's almost to the scale of what Turkey presents right now. Turkey is really out of hand.
Well,
we just saw a
also,
deal being struck between Turkey and the U.S. Boeing. How many
250 jets. They didn't specify what jets those were, but primarily F-16s and F-35s is kind of what's being touted. I doubt it's 250 of those specifically,
would be scary.
But the fact that any of those are going to Turkey right now is kind of terrifying.
Well, before we dive too much into Turkey, let's just talk about how Egypt has been zero help, and they've actually hindered in the last 2 years since October 7th.
And
we were in Gaza on the Philadelphia corridor.
That's right.
We basically saw the evidence and saw the drilling for the 200 plus tunnels that go underneath the Rafah or underneath the Gaza border there. What did Egypt do on their side? Destroyed the entire area, tripled, I think, their fence and their border wall so that no one could get in and out. Will not allow any Arabs out of Gaza into Egypt, which would be like the natural route for them to go. Allow them to leave, allow them to go through the tunnels that they've already built. Egypt will not have any of it. Egypt stopped the huge group of activists that tried to, they literally like threw them out. So like Egypt has been zero help, and now they're amassing their troops on the border. You get into Turkey, like you were saying, on top of, I don't know why Turkey's part of NATO. That boggles my mind. But in the last few years, Turkey was always a popular tourist destination for Israelis. Last few years, Israelis have like stopped going to Turkey because
Too dangerous.
The Mossad or the Sheen Bet like literally had to yank Israelis out of Turkey because they were about to be like kidnapped and killed, basically. Like rescued them out of Turkey. And now like it's just a super dangerous anti-Israel place.
Did you see the interview that Erdogan just did with somebody from Fox? He just did an interview. I have the clip. He just did an interview where maybe Brett Baer from Fox, he said, he asked him, do you recognize that Hamas is a terrorist organization? And he said, no, it's not a terrorist organization. We see it as a resistance movement inside of Gaza. We see it as a resistance.
I was about to say the exact same. Tucker says the same thing. So
Let's watch it.
Do you see Hamas as a terrorist organization?
I don't see Hamas as a terrorist organization. On the contrary, I see it as a resistance group.
Jordan officially has had normal relations with Israel and been under a peace agreement with Israel for a number of years. They're kind of like, I don't know. I'm not too worried about Jordan. They haven't been a problem in a long time. But thing is they are sitting on Israel's border. Right. Literally just the Jordan River separates them. A large part of their border.
And also a very insecure border, I would say. That border is basically an open border.
Wait, there's like 2 guys shot last week on the Jordanian-Israel border.
That's right. Yeah, 2 Israelis were killed from a Jordanian. And
then we got Indonesia and Pakistan, which I don't have a lot of comment on them, except that we already talked about. Indonesia, they gave a pretty good speech talking about they need to prioritize Israel's security and safety in any kind of deal or agreement that's reached at the UN, but they're also willing to send 20,000 troops to Gaza.
20,000, yeah.
I'm just
which
trying
won't
to
happen.
That would look. That's not going to happen.
No, it won't happen, and it would be ridiculous. It's kind of like put it in the same category as Greta Thunberg trying to make it to Gaza. Like Israel won't let that happen. Oh, we didn't even put that in the notes, but just say that it's pretty hilarious that this flotilla or whatever is getting close, I guess. And Israel has told them, because the whole thing about the flotilla is to break the siege and bring aid into Gaza, right? Israel has told and officially notified Greta and her colleagues that they are welcome to bring the flotilla to the official port. I think it's Ashdod or Ashkelon or something like that. They will offload their aid, and Israel will make sure it goes straight into Gaza. The funny part is, however many boats and ships this flotilla is, I can't remember. It's a lot. It's supposed to be a big flotilla. They have exactly like 1 truckload of aid for Gaza.
How much carbon
and
are those
obviously
ships using of the diesel engines?
And I mean, it's pretty obvious they're not going to dock in Israel's port and offload the aid to make it into Gaza. They're going to go straight for Gaza. They'll be intercepted by the IDF,
get their videos,
fed some good challah bread, and shipped off back to their homes. So, what else about this 21-point peace plan?
Pakistan, you didn't mention Pakistan.
Yeah,
is a part of these. Yeah,
Pakistan.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Muslim.
I just feel like Pakistan's like a non-player. I'm like, why would?
Well, no,
Pakistan
that's
a lot of
what
people.
scares me. Is Pakistan is never a part of this stuff, and they actually are this time. And Pakistan is like the only legitimate military in this discussion.
Oh, really?
I mean, Pakistan's military it's
They're
insane.
huge.
Yeah, they have nukes too.
That's scary.
Which is
So I guess the big thing to say is that none of this is confirmed. It's being reported. Also, what's being reported is that part of this plan is that Trump has promised the Arab leaders that he will personally prohibit sovereignty from being applied in Judea and Samaria.
Yeah.
And it says he's very unequivocal about this, saying that Israel would not be allowed to absorb the territory of Judea and Samaria. And this is according to Politico. So that's
according to Macron, actually,
interesting.
as well.
Wait, Macron said that?
Macron actually
but what is
quoted
Macron
Trump saying? Well, he said, and
Trump also made
I got
Macron
Trump's
walk to
word.
the UN.
Yeah, we should talk about that. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
So at the same time, though, Macron used this saying, Trump has promised me that Israel will not basically declare sovereignty over the territories of Judea and Samaria.
Over any territories in Judea and Samaria. Yeah.
Right. And so
That's probably the scariest part of the whole
leaked.
plan. And also why it sounds a whole lot like the deal of the century.
Well,
Yeah.
why did Macron have to walk anyway? Should we talk about that?
Yeah. There's a clip. Macron was coming into
Not
the
that
UN.
we're ADD or anything and getting off topic, but
Yeah, Macron was coming into the White House or coming into the UN building, and they blocked off the street for Trump's motorcade coming in.
Right.
So they stopped him, and he calls Trump on the phone, and then he ended up walking anyway.
I love that. I think that, there's been so much media about him, and he hates Israel.
yeah.
I mean, like that guy.
they're
is
like the
vile against-
originator of recognizing a Palestinian state.
Well, that's where this whole actually they're calling it the New York Declaration. He's the guy behind this New York Declaration, along with, I believe, Saudi Arabia, where they're bringing this declaration saying that they're going to renew the efforts for a Palestinian state. This is what this whole thing was just this week. Right. He was the guy behind it. That's why he's one of the main players, and now can't walk into the building like a civilized person. He has to walk around.
Good for him.
Right.
I mean, that's awesome.
Good for Trump. So did we go through the points of what might be in the plan that we know so far?
Yeah, there are 21 points they're saying that are a part of this plan. Most of it's in the private discussions at this point, and there've just been a couple of the major points leaked or released or whatever. But they're saying that all of these countries are discussing a possible 20-day ceasefire would be the beginning of it. And at the end of those 20 days, there would be a release of Israeli hostages. They didn't specify whether that's just a few or all of them. And then after that, there would be a coalition of Arab governments that would take over Gaza, and then they would run this joint administration inside of Gaza, and then slowly they would build a new Palestinian government that would take over Gaza, that would exclude Hamas. Is kind of there.
So we just go through what we see it be problematic with this.
Well, we've already done all of that already.
20-day ceasefire. Why are we looking for a ceasefire at all? We don't need any sort of ceasefire.
And why does the
ceasefire means
happen
two
at the
sides
end
are
of that,
fighting and they agree to stop, right? Hamas, bad guy. Israel, good guy. Israel needs to win. That's like, there should be no ceasefire. There should be no return. Like, there should be no agreement to return some hostages. There should be release every single hostage and surrender.
How many examples do we have of the Western ideology really getting in the way in the Middle East? We have time after time.
Zero understanding it.
All the bloodshed in the Middle East is I wish somebody would do a figure. How much of it was done at the hands of some generous military assistance, giving and backing some tribal group somewhere that becomes the lead because they have this cutting edge backing. That's the Middle East, and that's the way the West has played this game. And again, I don't think God's going to look too kindly, as from a believing point of view, upon Israel being treated like that. You can't just back this gang and that gang, this tribe and that tribe, and playing this God. This is not the rest of the world. This is God's chosen people. God's brought the people of Israel back, and now this is really what's happening in the nation. They're thinking that they can go, oh, the Hamas didn't do so good. Let's back the PA, the Palestinian Authority, instead.
That's what I was going to say. Is let's talk about the idea that you could build a Palestinian government in Gaza without Hamas. Let's talk about all the other options. Option one,
there's 22 terror organizations operating here, so you got 22 options.
Palestinian Authority, controlled by Fatah, is just another terrorist organization.
Although there wasn't any mention of the PA in this.
Right, but I'm saying, what are our options? That's option number one, because they're the only other government, even though they're not a government, right? They're a terrorist organization. They pay terrorists to murder Jews. That's just a fact. They paid hundreds of millions of dollars over the years.
Well, even the Taylor Force Act in America recognizes that. That's not. Yeah, that's clear.
Then you have Palestinian Islamic Jihad, who is also one of the, I mean, people think Hamas, but like there's several other terrorist factions that participated in October 7th that have held the hostages. You've got them, and then you got Iran, basically, who's operating inside of Gaza and Judea and Samaria. Who else we got? But there's nobody. Like the point is, it doesn't matter who they choose. There's nobody that's not a terrorist organization that they would be able to put in to run the government. And we also know 85% of the people in Judea and Samaria supported Hamas and what they did after October 7th. I don't know what the current numbers are, but I would guess they're not much lower than that. And so how do you even kick Hamas out? You can't. The only way to get rid of Hamas is to defeat them and obliterate them.
Yeah. That's after October 7th, the Arabs of Judea and Samaria, who had been primed to be Palestinian Authority Arabs and not Hamas Arabs, actually shifted. And that's why you see here in Judea and Samaria the spike in support for Hamas, which is Gaza's operating government, not the Judea and Samaria one, spiked like crazy, so much so that the Palestinian Authority is not if there was elections, they would not win. There never was elections, so therefore there never is a win to be had.
Right.
This Arab way of fighting is done with force. It's who's the strongest, what tribe can get the backing, how many people can you get on your side, and then bloody fight it out until you decide who wins. So this stuff is far from anything actual.
Although maybe just to kind of bring a little bit of an optimistic side to this, it is possible that in these points that were released, there was no mention of the PA, and as far as I'm aware, no mention of a Palestinian state. And also Mahmoud Abbas, the leader of the president, quote unquote, of the PA, is currently banned from entering the U.S. right now and had to make his speech to the UN via Zoom.
But they still let him make a speech.
The UN did, but the United States didn't. I guess the optimistic approach to this could be,
I think Trump
that Trump has learned his lesson with the Palestinian state thing, and he's trying to bring a conclusion to Gaza while skirting the Palestinian state issue, and that the deal of the century could be dead, and Trump sees it as dead, and Trump basically could be telling Bibi, like, hold off on annexation for now. We'll talk about a Palestinian state. We'll talk about it in public. We'll bring a conclusion to Gaza, and then we'll deal with that afterwards.
Honestly, you could be correct about that. It's very generous to think like this, but because the last deal he tried to make, he started with Israel and then went to the Arabs, and that did not work.
But
maybe he's trying to flip this.
I don't know if the same. I read a bunch of the books from the Trump administration in the White House after his first term ended. What happened, like right before the Abraham Accords, Israel was embracing the idea of sovereignty, but Trump found out like hours before I think the Abraham Accords were set to go off, and he literally sent officials over to the Israeli delegation, and they like pounded on the doors and were livid and told them in no uncertain terms, you are not allowed to apply any sort of sovereignty. And I mean, it was like extreme, like anger. Like, how dare you try to do something behind my back at all?
Although this current administration is very different than 2016. Like, did you see what Rubio?
They also have a lot of the same people.
Did you see what Rubio just said though? Like 2 weeks ago, a reporter asked him about sovereignty and what if Bibi declares sovereignty, and he said, if Bibi wants to declare sovereignty, that's up to the Israeli people.
I'll tell you.
Like, he said they can do whatever they want.
I'll tell you who I have a problem with, though. Steve Witkoff on this meeting on the UN sidelines. He said, quote, "We had a very productive session. We presented what we call the Trump 21-point plan for peace in the Mideast and Gaza. I think it addresses Israeli concerns and as well the concerns of all the neighbors in the region. We're hopeful, and I might say even confident that in the coming days we'll be able to announce some sort of breakthrough." Here's the problem. He said, "I think it addresses Israeli concerns." How do you know it addresses Israeli concerns if they're not even part of this plan? Right. And that's kind of the problem I also see. That's what happened with the deal of the century. I met some of the guys that were working on the deal of the century. They were ignoring the players in the region. They refused to talk to anyone on the Israeli side from the regional councils in Judea and Samaria. The guys that were about to have their, like the governors that were about to have their territory carved out from underneath their nose, they would not meet with them. They wouldn't talk to them. And I mean, not like we met some of these guys in person, asked them about it, and they were just so like, you know, we it's like Steve Witkoff. Don't worry, it addresses all the Israeli concerns, you know. Right. How do we? Israel's being cut out of it, and like they said, we don't know. I mean, it's a lot of speculation still, but if history repeats itself, then basically they're going to put something together that they believe will work, and then they're going to say, Israel, here you go. This is what you need to do to bring peace in the region. And that's kind of scary.
I mean, it very well could be the case, but you just hope against hope that the Trump administration have learned something from this war.
Right. Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
In the world would have learned something. I mean, as far as the European countries go, it seemed like they haven't really taken anything away from this at all. But inside of the Trump administration, I mean, one can hope.
Well, October 7th, the atrocities of the Arab world was displayed before the world. Arabs fight Arabs like this, like horrifically all the time, and nobody seems to mind. And that's just
nobody seems to mind all the other atrocities happening in the world.
In Syria, we have crazy things going down. But then this was really the first time when the world saw how brutal these Arab clans can be and how dangerous it is.
Which highlights why the deal of the century is impossible for Israel.
Yeah.
When you have people that hate you, you have to have a buffer zone between you and them.
Or you have to obliterate the people that hate you.
Or obliterate them, but at least a buffer zone. In Syria, when you have these terrorists that have taken over the state and they hate Israel, Israel expanded their buffer zone. They said, we need a few miles between us and them because if they're coming to kill us, we need to have time to be able to respond to that. And Israel had the best security wall in the world between Gaza and the communities in the south with no buffer zone. And we saw what happened. And here in Judea and Samaria, that would be even worse. The communities would be even closer to the people that want to kill them, to the terrorists. And there's no way that October 7th would not happen again.
If he hasn't learned anything from the war, and we are looking at two sides here, he in his Peace to Prosperity maps, the actual maps they produced, looking at it right here, it says the future state of Palestine. All right, that's what it says. And it has basically all of Judea and Samaria with these enclaves of Jewish communities throughout. And then a huge added high-tech manufacturing industrial zone down near Gaza where we're going to give them more land. Yeah. And then there was going to be a residential and agricultural area down from that. So God forbid, Trump has not learned and the administration has not learned, we're going to be looking at something like this again. And so this is just to prep everyone. This is the bad side if he has not learned and he is talking to Macron as an actual peace partner and his plan. I mean, he acted like they were like shaking hands on stage. And I was like, what are you doing?
After he made him walk.
After he made him walk.
I think something that we can, something for our audience, if you guys watching and listening, is that we do know people personally that are people of faith. And faith leaders who are trying to get the president's ear to warn him that there's a very prophetic warning for trying to carve up the state of Israel and any land, and it doesn't go well. And they also know exactly what we talked about at the beginning, that it didn't go well 6 years ago. And so I think a prayer point is that these key people who do have the president's ear or have the ear of people who are close to him, that their voices and their warnings would get through and that Trump would actually hear voices of truth, voices of faith that could say, in no way, do not participate in trying to cut up this little, the map of Israel. No way participate in trying to give away land for peace. Because if he can hear those voices clearly and realize that he could be the world leader to actually promote actual peace by allowing and pushing and supporting Israel to declare sovereignty. That could be an amazing thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big prayer point.
Seems to be a no-brainer, but every president since I can't even remember who. Like, what do we
every
have?
President.
Every president since the founding
all
of
the way
Israel.
back to the beginning,
Israel,
have all. It's been an
since
incessant
1967
thing of every single one of them to somehow solve this Middle Eastern problem that's really not a problem. Just what's the problem? Jews living in Judea? I mean, that's literally their problem. Take the problem out and say, no, that's the best thing in the world, and just say it's not a problem anymore, and declare Jewish sovereignty on ancient Jewish lands, and just stop the continual promotion of a problem. It's not a problem for Jews to live in Judea, and for us just to change the narrative. Take a biblical perspective of thousands of years of Jewish history in Judea, Samaria, Shiloh, Bethel, Hebron, places that these over the last 3 generations Arabs have come from, as proxy tribes to come and fight this Arab war. That's literally what's going on. I don't think people understand. It's that simple. Just like Iran and its proxies that are fighting forces in Judea and Samaria. The whole Arab world, including, literally you have to include all these surrounding Israel, from Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Egypt, they all have people that have embedded themselves in this country in order to do one thing, and that's to fight and to take it and to destroy Jewish presence and to reclaim this land in their jihadic war against the Jewish nation. So I think everybody has to just understand. Macron has to understand that battle's going to be going down in his land very soon.
It's already
Let's just say it already happened. He's already lost.
We talk about the hate fest that's been happening at the United Nations this week a little bit. I think first off, it's something you probably won't hear in the news, is that the United Nations Security Council scheduled an emergency meeting about Gaza for Tuesday this week. And what you probably don't know is that Tuesday and Wednesday of this week was the holiday of Rosh Hashanah. It's like one of the most important holidays in Judaism. And so obviously
intentional. That
meant that Israeli diplomats and Jewish UN staff could not attend. So Israel they're excluding Israel. Israeli ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, tried to ask that they would reschedule the meeting, but his request was ignored. And this is according to an op-ed by Joshua Hoffman in the Israeli news. He said the symbolism cannot be clear. The world body that never misses a moment to pass judgment on Israel scheduled its judgment at a time when Jews could not even be present to defend themselves on the Jewish holiday called by the Talmudic sages the Day of Judgment before God. Rosh Hashanah is like the Day of Judgment. It's one of the Jewish New Years. And so it's just very symbolic. And UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres declared that, quote, the horrors are approaching a third monstrous year in Gaza. And then he accused Israel of carrying out disproportionate collective punishment and making decisions that defy basic humanity. And then from then on, the whole week was just to bash Israel fest, basically. Like, there was very few world leaders that got up and said anything in support of Israel. And that's why the leader of the president, I think, of Indonesia, he kind of stood out, because he actually got up and said Israel's security and safety must be priority, even though he's talking about sending 20,000 troops, which is obviously not to protect Israel. And Qatar's Sheikh Emir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, that's a long name, accused Israel of preferring war over the release of the remaining 48 hostages, which is a ridiculous claim, because Hamas is the one every single time that has refused to accept any kind of ceasefire or hostage exchange every single time. And he went on and on about Israel assassinating Hamas leaders in Qatar. So I mean, if I was a sheikh in Qatar, I think I would be mad that Israel assassinated my terrorist buddies too. Right. Emmanuel Macron. I mean, it just went on and on and on. So thankfully, standing against all of this was President Trump. And
What
you
an
know
entry.
what? You
What
know
an
what I
entry,
think
you
I
know?
want to say? Because, obviously this is not a political podcast, right? We don't take positions or anything like that.
No.
You know what I want to say? A lot of people are up in arms about how any kind of criticism of Israel or Bibi Netanyahu or the Israeli government is anti-Semitism and all that. You know what? You can criticize Bibi Netanyahu all you want. You can criticize the Israeli government anytime you want. And the funny thing is, a lot of your criticisms and questions are probably the same criticisms that, last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago, Ari Abramowitz said, same questions he has, right? The people of Israel are really good at criticizing their own leaders and their own government. Same thing with President Trump. I'm not like a President Trump supporter, right? But I think he does things that are really good. And I think he has done some amazing things. I think he has the potential to do good things. And so that's why when he does actually stand against unilateral recognition of a Palestinian state, we have to talk about it. He said in his UN speech, oh, wait, are we going to talk about how he was sabotaged at the UN first? I think that's pretty funny.
It was actually
Escalator.
Do we have any videos from that?
Yeah, we should.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So first, President Trump and First Lady Melania go to the UN. First, the escalator stops working, right? Then the teleprompters quit working right when he gets up to do his speech.
And then the mic stopped.
The mic stopped, and he finishes, and nobody could hear a word of what he said.
They could only hear him through the translation sets, yeah.
Which is funny because he's like the end of a long line of speeches. So it's like, how did it work for all the teleprompters
He wasn't
and the
the
audio
first
and
speech
everything?
at 4 o'clock in the morning, yeah.
Yeah. Right. And then all of a sudden he gets up and everything quits working.
Well, I just find it fascinating, though, because we've just had this whole conversation about Trump building a plan that is a pro-two-state plan. It's creating the 23rd Arab state, right? It's cutting in half the Jewish, one and only Jewish state in order to achieve this peace that so the world is somehow, even Trump is somehow believing that could help. This is what we just talked about. And then he gets on stage amongst these people who believe in it a little bit more than he does. And he gets somewhat, kind of hit. It seems like here he's saying intentionally. But the fact is, what I'm drawing attention to is that it does seem like, even though Israel has support from America, is there support for Shiloh? Is there support for the ancient biblical Israel? The Jews that a lot of Republicans and conservatives across America right now are thinking, oh, it's just a political entity. The biblical people no longer exist. That's a real thing. The politics and the religious belief behind America is losing grid with the ancient people of Israel, the Shiloh people, the Hebron, the Elon Moreh, the Mount of Blessing, the Mount of Cursing, the Bethel, these ancient biblical places of Israel, potentially, or somehow, in this this box of in question mark in America.
Yeah.
It'll make you
the politics.
It'll affirm your belief in God.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you explain everyone going to the UN?
The infatuation, yeah.
The entire world going to the UN and being infatuated with what happens in this tiny, tiny little area.
Yeah.
With all the huge problems going on in the world, Russia, Ukraine, whatever, and we're discussing this, and every single country is coming up to bat to, take their smack of Bibi Netanyahu. It's like
I'll
a
add to it.
piñata at this point.
That's right. And I'll add to it, Jerusalem was a major topic of this summit as well. The E1 is what Macron is like infatuated with. And he says America and Europe agree that Israel should not expand into this E1 building block.
In
E1
Jerusalem.
is another awful term for, it's like a West Bank terminology.
Like,
E1.
why would you-
Who calls
Israel's
Jerusalem
not-
E1?
Like, I've
this
got
is
news for you guys.
Jerusalem.
I've got news for everybody. Israel's not going to carve up the holiest site
Yes,
in
you
Israel,
hope not.
in
Well-
Judaism, the capital, the government, the Knesset.
Well,
the
Benjamin
Temple
Netanyahu
Mount.
was very
Like,
clear about it. He said, we're not creating a
they
Palestinian
will
state.
not carve out Jerusalem. That's like the last thing that's going to happen. There's a couple
again-
quotes from Trump's speech at the UN. He said, quote, this would be talking about the idea of a Palestinian state, because obviously he's following a lot of world leaders recognizing the Palestinian state idea. He said, quote, this would be a reward for these horrible atrocities, including October 7th, even while they refused to release the hostages or accept a ceasefire. He said, quote, we've got to come together, and we will come together. We have to stop the war in Gaza immediately. We have to get it done. We have to negotiate peace. And then he said, quote, instead of giving in to Hamas ransom demands, those who want peace should be united with one message: release the hostages now.
Good.
I mean, I like that, but I don't think release the hostages now is not winning the war. Winning the war is getting rid
surrender
of
and release the hostages now.
Is a complete finishing of all of the brutal Islamic jihad that is on Israel's borders. If they don't think it's going to happen again, they all put their head in the sand.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time until they rebuild and strike again. That's not winning. Getting the hostages home is not winning. It's great, but it does not equal winning.
Yeah, and that's also why Hamas continues to exist.
Right.
Is because of the distinction that people try to draw between Hamas and Gaza. And that up until now, we have this idea everyone promotes, even on the conservative side, that you have innocent Gazan civilians and you have Hamas. The reason why Hamas still exists, everyone asks me this all the time. Why has Israel not finished Hamas? It's because Hamas is Gaza. You kill 10,000. You kill 10,000 Hamas terrorists, and then they're replaced the next day because Hamas is Gaza.
One of the first hostages that was released, she came out and said there are 2 million terrorists in Gaza. Like there is no civilians.
Correct.
There's none. Not even one. So yeah.
Well, if there was one, there would be like helping to.
They would have helped. Yeah.
Bring
be
the
like,
hostages
hey,
out.
There's some hostages hiding under my house or whatever.
That's the thing is
and
Israel,
that hasn't happened in 2 years.
Israel literally drops SIM cards, millions of SIM cards into Gaza from airplanes with 20 shekel bills attached to them. Israeli SIM cards that cannot be traced by Hamas to say, give us a tip about the hostages. As far as we know, I don't think they've gotten a single one.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they've gotten a single tip from those.
We probably should wrap up, but there's kind of two important, well, one big news story and second, a positive news story. That'd be great to finish out
something
on.
positive.
But we can't ignore there was a Houthi drone that slipped through the cracks and hit the southernmost town of Eilat in Israel. Eilat is the big tourist town right on the Red Sea.
For something like this to happen,
the Egyptian and Jordanian border.
Yeah.
And 48 people were wounded, including 2 that were in pretty serious conditions.
The
so
airport
it came
was
down
hit not that long ago as well. Like
that's true.
some
I
sort
forgot
of
about that. Yeah,
something
I don't
happening
think
there.
people were killed or injured in that one though.
Also, when the drone, because the drone came in and it hit a hotel or like right outside of a hotel, a couple of the rooms were damaged. That's why there were so many injuries. But we just talked about Jordan being not a threat to Israel.
Oh my gracious!
There's this video here of when the drone impacts from Jordan, and you can see cheering.
Why would you be clapping, whistling, excited, sitting on the beaches of Jordan there, looking at Israel, and you're excited that a hotel, obviously housing civilians and people on vacation, you got to be absolutely just a brute to think that that's something
okay,
you should go whistle and shout.
Do you know?
And Jordan's not a problem.
Yeah, Jordan's not a problem to Israel. It's like everyone's
Sounds like
drunk.
a problem to me.
You thought about this?
It really does.
For all the Muslims not drinking alcohol.
You mean more people than Candace Owens recently?
But it's literally at the UN, like we're just talking about. It's like all of these nations are completely drunk. When it comes to Israel, you lose your ability to have any kind of a rational explanation, which is like from Zechariah, like Zechariah 12.
That's what it's,
literally says, behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of drunkenness to all the surrounding peoples when they lay siege against Jerusalem. And it will happen that it will make Jerusalem a very heavy stone for all peoples. All who would heave it away will surely be cut to pieces, though all nations of the earth are gathered against it. Like literally you have all these nations, they come to the UN, the name Jerusalem gets brought up, and it's all like they literally just fall out drunk. Like there's no logic here at all.
It's so stupid that they even try to come up with, we're going to call it E1 now, and it's going to be some sort of like another thing. We're going to call it.
I was making a joke out of it, but maybe that is the case with Candace Owens and others like her too.
When you come against the nation of Israel and you come against Jerusalem, you see that. You see that with people, you see it with nations, you see it with faiths even. When you pick up that stone, it cuts you to pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it over and over again. It's like this drunkenness where you lose all reasoning ability.
No, you're seeing it just live. That's exactly what's
It's
happening.
being played out just right in front of you.
Well, and America's on the really right in the tipping right now. Will they stand with Israel, Jerusalem, the Jewish people, with the eternal capital? or will they come up now with is that 21 point plan stand with Jerusalem and the Jewish people, or is it a plan to create the 23rd Arab state? And I honestly, if I'm to tell you the truth, I cannot help but believe that it's another plan of the nations to create a state, that it's an enemy state of the Jewish people right in Israel's most biblical places where God spoke to him and promised the Jewish nation. That's just, you talk about believing in God. How is it that of all the places in the entire world where they would want to create a 23rd Arab state, why do you need a 23rd Arab state to start with?
Right.
Obviously, this is a problem. But the place you're going to create it is the exact place where God made the promise to Abraham. Abraham, to you and your descendants.
Are you ready for a little bit of good news?
Yeah, let's talk about something good.
Since the October 7th terrorist attacks, more than 50,000 new immigrants to Israel, Jewish people making Aliyah back home to Israel, have arrived.
Wow.
50,000 new people.
That's incredible.
I'm sure all of you out there probably saw news headlines that said, Israelis are fleeing, Israeli population declining, economy going down. Also, by the way, the Tel Aviv stock market has boomed since October 7th. Isn't that just backwards of everything that you think should happen? 50,000 new people. 1/3 of the people who've made Aliyah are ages 18 to 35. Young people are flocking to Israel. And 60,000 people, I think that's an additional 60,000 people have opened Aliyah files. They're like starting the process of making Aliyah to Israel. So the Jewish people are coming home. That's also prophesied in scripture. You know, there's all these prophecies that are kind of like negative, but there's positive prophecies. And as far as the Jewish people coming home, it's only going to accelerate. It's only going to keep going faster and more people making Aliyah.
Do you want to keep this positive, or do we want to talk about why the Jewish people are having to make Aliyah?
We got to end on positive.
It's a call too. It's a call
but
too.
No, I mean, even think about it. Like, why would you want to come to a country that's war torn and in the middle of a war zone, and know that you or your sons are going to fight in the military with Lebanon, Hamas, Iran, whatever it is? Like, why would you want to come there? But
because your home. Yeah, because your home country, because your home country is lifting the stone of Jerusalem.
That's right.
And they're about to be crushed by it.
That's right.
Which is a call to all the Jewish members of our audience. If you're not living in Israel, now is the time to come back while the window is open.
That's right.
That's from a couple of Christian Zionists.
Since Ari and Jeremy aren't here,
yeah.
Well, and I want to clarify too. We say that because we love the Jewish people.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't say that from some whacked out. I was talking to this guy. There's this idea in Israel that Christians just believe in that Jews should come back because it facilitates their some sort of end time theology.
That's
Let's
not
just make
us,
that
guys.
100% clear.
That's not us.
You got the wrong guys.
Yeah.
We are pro-Israel now, tomorrow, the next day, and into eternity. The Jewish story, it never shifts to become something else. The Jewish people are God's people. And I just want to make that clear because there's so many people here in Israel even that think evangelicals, and unfortunately a lot of evangelicals are that. They do love Israel just because of some end time theology, which is unfortunate. But I want to clarify that just for all of you, the Jewish audience, we were talking to you there. I want to clarify to you here at the Israel Guys, we believe in you. We believe in the nation of Israel.
Yeah.
And we believe that the Jewish story is a God story. And the Jewish nation is only going to rise higher and higher. And especially as the world falls apart, the Jewish nation has a specific role in the world to bring light to the nations. Right there from the good book as well. And we believe that you're going to do that. And the best way to do that is to come to Israel and be a part of shedding that light to the rest of the world from this place.
Sign up for a trip, serveisrael.com. Think about becoming a monthly supporter of the Israel Guys, theisraelguys.com. We'll put that link down in the description below. Really helps us out. We're going to continue growing and expanding and standing strongly with the nation and the people and the God of Israel. But you guys can be a part of that by joining us as a supporter, theisraelguys.com. Ben, do we want to mention we have a documentary coming out?
Premiering October 5th. We will have a premiere.
Talking about Jerusalem.
Jerusalem, the location of the Temple Mount.
I think that's
that film.
Probably one of the most fun series we ever filmed.
Yep. Yeah. Super cool. Premiering October 5th. So there is a link, like we said before, a link in the description where you could sign up to get notified when that comes out, be reminded of that. But yeah, a bunch of us will be live in the chat when that goes. Don't miss it.
Don't miss out. Temple Mount documentary film coming out October 5th. TheIsraelGuys.com/temple, and that link is in the description below as well. Guys, as always, stop listening to the lies and propaganda and connect with the truth of what's happening here in the land of Israel. We'll be back very soon here at The Israel Guys.